وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وفقها في الدين يا رب العالمين وألحقنا بعبادك الصالحين. يقول الله عز وجل: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد إلى آخر الآية. We continue inshallah on the chapter of foods. The chapter of foods. Our kitab is Targhib al-Tarhib by Imam Hafiz al-Mundhiri. Here the next hadith we find, the next chapter, is to eat from the side of the plate and not to eat from the middle of the plate. Okay, this hadith عن عبد الله بن بسر رضي الله تعالى عنه قال: كان للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قصعة يقال لها الغراء يحملها 4 رجال. Subhanallah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he used to have a big tal. You know the way we call a tal, a big huge plate. يقال لها الغراء. He had different items and he used to name these items different names. This was the speciality of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He used to have a special love for certain things. Just like his camels, he'll give a different name. His horses, he'll give a different name. Likewise, his plates as well, he used to give a different name. And he used to, nowadays, unfortunately, our habit is we use and then we throw away. We don't have no love for the item. This has become a more norm nowadays. Whereas people of the past, they used to be happy and graceful that they have these items, because these items were rare. They weren't that common. They weren't easy to just order online and then they come in within 1-2 days, alhamdulillah, from Amazon. And then alhamdulillah, we're using them. Within a couple of days, we're throwing them away as well. This was not the custom of Sahaba or Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Whatever they used to have, they used to make the most of it. So this was one of the things. Anyway, this plate they used to call al-gharra, and it was so big, 4 men used to normally hold that plate or that tray, if you want to call it tray. That tray used to be held by 4 men. Imagine how big the tray was. It's probably the size of at least this table, isn't it? Huge table. So the name was Gharra. The tray's name was Gharra. يحملها 4 رجال. 4 men used to carry it. فلما أضحوا وسجدوا الضحى. After they offered after they offered the duha salah. Duha salah is between Fajr and Dhuhr, right in between that time, and then thereafter. So from sunrise until Zawal, the last half. Okay, that's duha time. So when they prayed duha salah, wasajadu ad-duha, utiya bitilka al-qas'a. That plate was bought. That huge tray was bought. وَقَدْ أُثْرِدَ فِيهَا. And there was some tharid. Tharid is a dish made of bread, and it's like halim. The way we understand halim, similar to halim. Okay, bread and meat mixed together in like a curry form. Okay, like a soup form. وَقَدْ أُثْرِدَ فِيهَا فَالْتَفُّوا حَوْلَهَا. And the Sahabas, they started sitting around the plate. فَلَمَّا كَثَرُوا جَثَى رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ فَقَالَ أَعْرَابِيٌّ مَا هَذِهِ الْجِلْسَةِ. When the Sahaba was many around the plate, Rasulullah, he sat up with his knees high. Knees high. This is a common practice in Yemen. Jatha, this type of sitting is very common amongst the Yemenis. You put up the feet high like this, and you sit down with your buttocks on the bottom. So, فَقَالَ أَعْرَابِيٌّ. One of the Bedouins, he said, what type of sitting is this? Meaning he wasn't proud of that type of sitting. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam replied, Inna Allah ja'alani abdan kareeman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made me a noble slave. This is the point. A lot of the scholars, they normally, when they translate this, they translate it very nicely. They say servant. But servant doesn't give the true meaning. Servant won't even give the true meaning of the hadith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made me a grateful, honorable slave. Allah made me a slave. Allah, I am a banda. I'm someone who is a ghulam to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You understand? I am a slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm a noble slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَمْ يَجْعَلْنِي جَبَّارًا عَنِيدًا. And I'm not going to sit in a manner where it shows proudfulness and boastfulness and pride, because that will be the way of the arrogant ones. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was never arrogant. وَلَمْ يَجْعَلْنِي جَبَّارًا عَنِيدًا. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even amongst the Sahaba, when he was with the Sahaba, they never knew who was Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If a person came from outside, somebody who didn't know him, he wouldn't know who's Rasulullah. Whereas the Persian kings and the Roman emperors, the Byzantines, you could see, whenever you see the emperor, the person who's in ruling party, you could immediately see this is the king, this is the emperor, this is the leader, this is the minister. But with Rasulullah, he was just like the common folk. He was just like the common folk. He used to dress like the normal people, and he never used to outdo himself. He was just like any other person. That's why when Rasulullah came to Medina, when he entered Medina, they couldn't distinguish between Abu Bakr and Rasulullah. Some of them thought Abu Bakr was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the level of humility that Rasulullah had. He never had a want to be out there and for everyone to see him as something different. Okay, he didn't have this kibr inside him to show off to others. ثم قال Rasulullah, and in fact they said in the riwayah of when they came to Medina, they said Abu Bakr looked older. Abu Bakr was 2 years younger than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he looked older because he had grey hairs already starting, and Abu Bakr was only 38, or just after 30, maybe around that time. 48, because 10 years in Makkah. Inna Allah ja'alani abdan kariman wa lam yaj'alni jabbaran anidan, and he did not make me a proud, arrogant slave. ثم قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كلوا من جوانبها. So firstly, he taught us how to sit humbly. When you sit in a humble fashion. One of the best ways to sit is the tashahhud position. If you can eat in the tashahhud position, this is one of the best positions that you can sit during eating food. If you can't, then you may sit like a bit with the legs on the floor, facing one side. That might be easier. Or you can sit this sitting also. If this is easier for you. This is quite hard for us, generally speaking. كلوا من جوانبها ودعوا ذروتها يبارك لكم فيها رواه أبو داود وابن ماجه. So this hadith is in Abu Dawud and Ibn Majah. He says, eat from the sides of the plate. Don't eat from the middle. Don't eat from the middle. Because middle is where the barakah comes down. Middle is where the barakah comes down. So we understand from this hadith that literally there is barakah coming down on the top of the food. On top of the food, in the middle of the food. That must be right at the end. Right at the end. Eat the sides first of the plate and then eat the middle part last. This is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Next hadith we have عن ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال البركة تنزل وسط الطعام فكلوا من حافتيه ولا تأكلوا من وسطه رواه أبو داود والترمذي والنسائي وابن ماجه وابن حبان. This hadith is in how many books? Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, Ibn Hibban. 5 great books of hadith. On the authority of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, barakah comes down at the middle of the food. Middle of the food. So eat from the sides and do not eat from the middle. Do not eat from the middle. If you have a habit of eating from the middle, then inshallah, through these hadiths, after hearing these hadiths, we must stop eating from the middle. Even if you're eating by yourself, you still must not eat from the middle. A person might say, the Sahaba used to do this because they used to sit together with others. Yeah? They used to sit with others. They used to sit in 2s, they used to sit in 4s, they used to sit in 10s, like this. If the whole tray was lifted by four men, then how big was the tray? You understand? So they used to sit in groups and eat in one plate. Whereas in this day and age, we don't have that. So when it comes to eating your side, it's not a big problem because the whole plate is yours. Generally, the whole plate is yours. We said that this is completely not against the sunnah. You can't say it's against the sunnah, but it's not ideal to eat alone. It's not ideal to eat alone. It's best to couple up with someone, even if it's your child, even if it's your wife, even if it's your brother, even if it's your sister, anyone who you feel okay with, you must eat with together, inshallah. That's another sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam all the time. Some Sahaba, even Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, they did not used to eat. If they didn't find a partner to eat with, they wouldn't eat. They'd stop eating.
No musafir, no eating.
Subhanallah. That was the custom of Sahaba. This was the sunnah that they followed. Strictly they followed the sunnah. ولفظ أبو داود قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا أكل أحدكم طعاما فلا يأكل من أعلى الصفحة ولكن ليأكل من أسفلها فإن البركة تنزل من أعلاها. In the wording of Imam Abu Dawood, he says that if any of you eats food, then do not eat from the top part of the food. Eat from the bottom part. Eat from the bottom part of the food. Do not eat from the top part of the food. For indeed, blessings come down upon the top part of the food. Okay? Blessings comes down upon the top part of the food. So this makes it more clear. The other one spoke about middle of the food, and this talks about specifically on top of the food. So if you have the food piled up, then top of the food must be ate last. The part that's at the bottom must be ate first. Then we go on to the chapter on vinegar, olive oil, and meat that must not be cut. Okay, I'll explain to you what this means. And Jabir radiallahu, it might be confusing at first. عن جابر رضي الله تعالى عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم سأل أهله الأدمة فقال ما عندنا إلا الخل. Jabir رضي الله عنه says that Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم once came and he asked his family, he asked his wife, one of his wives, that is there any gravy to eat? Is there any gravy to eat? We'd say, is there any curry to eat? Isn't it? We used to curries. That's all we know. So, is there any curry to eat? The reply came, we don't have anything except vinegar. That's the only thing the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had at that point. The wife of Rasulullah at that point had only vinegar. Vinegar, nowadays we eat for health purposes. Apple cider vinegar with the mother, they say, isn't it? That's the health nutritionalists. Now mashallah, they're encouraging us to have apple cider vinegar half an hour before we eat food. Why? Because it's good for digestion. This is the kalam of Rasulullah that was 1,400 years ago. He's already telling you this from ages ago, before scientists even came, before scientists knew this stuff. Subhanallah. Ma indana illa al-khal. Fada'a bihi. He called for it to be brought. Faja'ala ya'kulu bihi. He started eating the roti with the vinegar. Roti with the vinegar. وَيَقُولُ نِعْمَ الْإِدَامُ الْخَلْ. How excellent is a gravy vinegar. How excellent is vinegar as a gravy? Meaning, how excellent is this as a food to eat? نِعْمَ الْإِدَامُ الْخَلْ نِعْمَ الْإِدَامُ الْخَلْ. And he repeated this three times. قال جابر فما زلت أحب الخل منذ سمعتها من نبي الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Jabir radiallahu anhu, the one who reports this hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahabi, he says, from that time, since that time, I started loving vinegar. Why? Because Rasulullah loved vinegar. Rasulullah loved vinegar. Therefore, I love vinegar. Anything which Rasulullah loved, I think is Anas radiallahu anhu. There was gourd on the plate. Gourd is fani khudu. Yes, fani khudu. We say fani khudu. On the plate, and Rasulullah was going for the pieces of gourd because he used to love gourd. Okay, he used to love it. So from that day, Anas radiallahu anhu, he was a child. He said he wasn't someone fond of gourd. He didn't like gourd that much. He was a child. Children generally don't like vegetables. So he said, from that day, I loved having gourd. I loved picking out the gourd, just like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The love of God came inside him because it was the sunnah of Rasulullah and Rasulullah loved it. Because Rasulullah loved it, he started loving it. Same with here. Jabir radiallahu anhu started loving vinegar because he saw Rasulullah praising vinegar. Ni'mal idamu al-khal. How excellent is a vinegar as a gravy, as a curry. Something to dip inside, something as a dip. Here, قال طلحة بن نافع وما زلت أحب الخل منذ سمعتها من جابر. And the tabi'i that narrated the hadith from Jabir radiallahu anhu, the student who narrated the hadith from the Sahabi, he also said, from the day that I heard it from Jabir radiallahu anhu, I started loving vinegar. So inshallah, from today, we must love vinegar, we must start eating vinegar. Because of the sunnah of Rasulullah, the sunnah of Sahabi Jabir radiallahu anhu, and the Tabi'i Talhat ibn Nafi'. This hadith is in Muslim, Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, and all have the wording, Ni'mal idamu al-khal. وعن أم هانئ بنت أبي طالب رضي الله تعالى عنها قالت دخل علي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال هل عندكم من شيء فقلت لا إلا كسرة يابسة وخل. So here in another hadith it mentions that Hani, the daughter of Abu Talib, this is the Sasagoroboin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the easiest way to put it to us. Yeah, he came into the house and he said, "Is there anything to eat?" Rasulullah, she replied, "There's only dried bread." Imagine they were at a point where they were starving. Literally, they were probably starving. Dried bread and some vinegar, something which is of extremely low value. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قربيه, bring it close. فما افتقر بيت من إدام فيه خل. There is no house that will suffer poverty that has vinegar. So if you want to take poverty away, at least keep vinegar, even if you don't eat vinegar. At least because of the wording of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is no house that will suffer poverty that has vinegar. That has vinegar. Even if you don't like the smell of it, even if you don't like the taste of it, at least have vinegar inside your house. Because of the barakah of the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that no house will become poor, no house will become faqir with a house that has vinegar inside it, inshallah. رواه الترمذي وروى ابن ماجه عن محمد بن زاذان قال حدثني أم سعد رضي الله تعالى عنها قالت دخل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على عائشة وأنا عندها فقال هل من غداء. Is there any lunch? He came into the house of Aisha رضي الله عنها and he said, is there any lunch? عندنا خبز وتمر وخل. We only have bread, dates and vinegar. That's the only three things we have: bread, dates and vinegar. Kajur, bread and vinegar. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نعم الإدام الخل. Again he said the same statement, that the best gravy, or how excellent of a gravy is vinegar. Then Allahumma barik fil khalli. Oh Allah, give barakah. Rasulullah's dua, specific dua. Rasulullah's specific dua for vinegar. Oh Allah, give barakah in vinegar. فَإِنَّهُ كَانَ إِدَامَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ قَبْلِي. For indeed it was the curry or the dip for all the Anbiya before me. So from Adam alayhi salam until Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, all of them, they used to have vinegar. They used to have vinegar. They used to dip their bread inside vinegar. وَلَمْ يُفْقِرْ بَيْتٌ فِيهِ خَلٌّ. And there is no house that will become poor that has vinegar inside it. So inshallah, everyone, those who don't have vinegar inside your houses, must buy vinegar. At least buy vinegar if you can't eat vinegar. Okay, and if you can eat vinegar, then you're following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inshallah, it will protect you from many types of illnesses. Apple cider vinegar, it kills a lot of bacteria. It's anti-fungal, antibacterial, so many things that they say on the internet. MashaAllah, you can research it yourself and you can find out more. But there's so many benefits of apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is antifungal, antibacterial, and it kills so many germs and bacteria that's bad for you. That's bad for you inside the stomach. And especially for digestion. They say the best thing is for digestion and acid reflux. A person who has, he wants to vomit. It stops the person from vomiting. It's like ginger. Ginger is very good for, if a person has nausea. Nausea is when a person wants to vomit all the time. Like that. He has this feeling that he wants to vomit. The best thing to have is ginger. Chew on a lot of ginger and inshallah I'll take it away. And ginger is from Jannah, you know. Zanjabil. وَيَطُوفُ عَلَيْهِمْ وِلْدَانٌ مُخَلَّدُونَ. It comes in Surah Dahr, Surah Insan. In Jannah, you'll have a drink made of ginger. Okay, maybe not the ginger that we have now, but it will be something similar to ginger. Okay. وعن أسيد رضي الله تعالى وعن أبي أسيد رضي الله تعالى عنه عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال كلوا الزيت وادهنوا به فإنه من شجرة مباركة رواه الترمذي وقال حديث غريب وقال الحاكم صحيح الإسناد. This hadith is on the authority of Abu Usaid. He says Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, eat olive oil. Eat olive oil. وَدَّهِنُوا bihi, and use it as oil. Oil yourself with it. Oil your body, oil your beard, oil your hair. This was the sunnah of Rasulullah. He used to do it himself. He used to oil his beard. He used to oil his hair because he used to have long hair, zulfa. We say zulfa hair, isn't it? All of his hair used to come all the way down, like up to his shoulders, up to his earlobes, different riwayat. Okay? Some of them said up to his neck, some of them said up to his shoulders. So whenever he used to cut it, he used to come down to his ears. Whenever he used to be normally, he used to go down all the way. Now this is all the hair, full hair from the front. Our hair's falling out. So, not us. But those who have hair, mashallah, those who can keep the hair, and those who have a big beard as well, mashallah, more than one fist, they should keep the zulfa as a sunnah, inshallah, if they can maintain the hair. If you can maintain the hair, then that's fine. But if you can't maintain the hair, then you shouldn't be keeping long hair anyway, okay? Because of other problems. You're going to have lice inside them. You're going to have so many other issues. So the sunnah was, and then when he used to cut it, he used to come down to the earlobes. So generally it was the custom of, even Khalid bin Walid and all the Sahaba, generally the custom of Arabia was to keep long hair. Long hair was like a sign of beauty. Even Jibreel alayhi salam, when he came down in the hadith of Jibreel, his hair was dripping with, as if it was droplets of pearls. So his hair was absolutely black and it was full of hair right until his shoulders as well. So here, kulu az-zayta waddahinu bihi. Eat olive oil, and olive oil is also mentioned in wattini was zaytun. Zaytun, isn't it? Zaytun. And where is zaytun? Zaytun is Palestine. That's where zaytun is grown. Zaytun is grown. Many of the mufassirin, I told you this before when I was doing the series on Palestine, that zaytun is referring to Palestine. And tin is referring to Sham. Tin is referring to Syria. Because that's where zaytun is grown mostly. Mostly zaytun is grown, olives are grown in Palestine, and figs are mostly grown in Syria. وَالدَّهِنُوا bihi. Use olive oil on your body, use olive oil on your hair. Use it, apply it on your body. فَإِنَّهُ مِنْ شَجَرَةٍ مُبَارَكَةٍ. For indeed it is from a blessed tree, or blessed tree. This hadith is in Tirmidhi, and Imam Hakim says this chain is authentic. وعن صفوان بن أمية رضي الله تعالى عنه قال إن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال انهسوا اللحم نهسا فإنه أهنأ وأمرأ رواه أبو داود والترمذي واللفظ له والحاكم وقال صحيح الإسناد. Here Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم said that bite meat with the bone. So bite the meat off the bone. Don't cut the meat. So cutting the meat is coming in the next hadith. رآني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنا آخذ اللحم عن العظم بيدي فقال يا صفوان قلت لبيك قال قرب اللحم من فيك فإنه أهنأ وأمرأ. So Safwan, one of the companions of Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم, he was, the bone of the meat is there. He's taking the meat off the bone and he's eating it. Rasulullah saw him and he said, Ya Safwan, O Safwan, he said, Labbaik, at your service, O Rasulullah. Then he said, eat the meat from the bone. Don't take the meat off the bone with your hand. Eat the meat from the bone. Bite it off with your teeth. For indeed it is more pleasurable, more palatable, more satisfactory for eating. Maybe there's digestion benefits, Allahu A'lam, we don't know. Maybe this we will come to know in the future. Someone will do a scientific research and we'll find out what the benefit of biting from the bone directly is. Nowadays, they have bone broth. Bone broth has so much benefits, collagen benefits. Everyone knows about collagen now. Sunnah supplements, they're promoting it like crazy. So, subhanallah, there's so many benefits in the sunnah, but if we study the sunnah. So the next hadith, وعن عائشة رضي الله تعالى عنها قال أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا تقطعوا اللحم بالسكين فإنه صنيع الأعاجم وانهشوه نهشا أو نهشا فإنه أهنأ وأمرأ. Aisha رضي الله عنها says that Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, do not cut meat. So, you know, when you sit on the plate, knife and fork, cutting the meat, this is against the sunnah. This is the way of the A'ajim. This is the way of the non-Arabs. This is referring to Persians. At the time, the Persians used to cut the meat, okay, that way. If you eat it, of course, this is not referring to when it's uncooked and when it's in large. When it's large, you can cut it off. But this is when it's cooked and it's soft. Then in that case, you eat it with the hand. You don't eat it with the knife cutting it. Okay? Maybe if metal touches, stainless steel or anything touches, any metals touch the meat, maybe it has a different effect of how it goes into us. Allahu Alam, maybe, possibly. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam here said, do not cut meat. Do not cut meat, especially when it's soft. When it's hard, you can cut it, it's not a problem. But when it's cooked, then you shouldn't be cutting meat, you should bite the meat off instead. For it is more satisfactory to your eating and more pleasant. We'll end here, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.